Every day, whether you realize it or not, you're engaging in subtle psychological games. A glance across the room, a firm handshake, the choice of words in a conversation, all of these send signals that influence the people around you. Some signals build trust, others spark curiosity, and some quietly persuade people to see things from your perspective. Human interaction is never random. It is guided by hidden patterns, psychological principles that shape how we think, feel, and behave. Imagine walking into a negotiation and sensing exactly what to say to tip the balance in your favor. Picture yourself at a job interview, where instead of being just another candidate, you become the unforgettable one. Or think about daily life, convincing your child to eat vegetables, persuading your partner to agree with your vacation plans, or earning the respect of your colleagues. These moments hinge on psychology. This guide is not about manipulation in the dark, sinister sense. It's about understanding the rules of the psychological chessboard. Once you learn them, you can play better, whether your goal is persuasion, connection, leadership, or personal growth. These 18 psychological tricks are not gimmicks. They are research-backed principles drawn from social psychology, behavioral science, and human experience. As you journey through these pages, you'll discover that influence is less about force and more about subtlety. The best persuaders don't push, they guide. They don't demand, they inspire. And they don't dominate, they align. By the end, you'll hold a toolkit that allows you to navigate life more effectively, to connect deeper, persuade smarter, and lead with quiet power. Let's begin. In conversations, most people rush to fill silence. It feels uncomfortable, even awkward. But silence is not emptiness, it's a weapon. Used wisely, a pause can amplify your words, unsettle your opponent, or invite others to reveal more than they intended. Consider negotiations. When someone makes you an offer, instead of replying immediately, pause, hold eye contact. That moment of silence pressures the other person to justify, sweeten, or even lower their offer. Silence creates tension, and humans naturally seek to relieve it. In everyday conversations, a well-timed pause also shows confidence. People who rush their words seem nervous. Those who can pause deliberately project authority. Think of great leaders, actors, or speakers. They let silence do the heavy lifting. Application. Next time someone asks you a difficult question, pause for 3 seconds before answering. Notice how much more weight your response carries. When someone makes an offer, stay silent. Watch how quickly they start talking again. Humans are wired to like people who are like them. That's why mirroring is so effective. This trick involves subtly copying another person's body language, tone, or word choice. If someone crosses their arms, wait a moment, then do the same. If they lean forward, lean slightly forward. If they say, "I'm excited," reply with, "Yes, that's exciting." These subtle reflections build subconscious rapport. The other person feels understood, even though they can't explain why. But mirroring must be delicate. If it's too obvious, it looks mocking. The key is subtlety, like a dance where you're just half a step behind. Application. In job interviews, mirror the interviewer's posture and energy. In personal conversations, reflect emotions with words. If someone says, "I'm frustrated," respond, "I can see why that's frustrating." A person's name is the sweetest sound in any language. Dale Carnegie famously emphasized this in How to Win Friends and Influence People. When you use someone's name, you acknowledge their identity and make them feel seen. Think about the difference between "excuse me" and "excuse me, Sarah." One feels generic, the other feels personal. In business, using names creates trust. In friendships, it deepens intimacy. But there's a fine line between warmth and overuse. Saying someone's name too often can sound manipulative. The key is natural integration. Application. In the first 5 minutes of meeting someone, repeat their name once. In emails or messages, personalize greetings with names instead of generic, "Hi." Humans are hardwired to return favors. This is reciprocity, a cornerstone of social psychology. When someone gives us something, even small, we feel obligated to give back. Marketers exploit this by offering free samples. Once you taste, you feel a subtle pull to buy. In conversations, small gestures, compliments, help, kindness, can tilt the balance in your favor. But reciprocity works best when the gift feels genuine, not calculated. A compliment that's obviously strategic backfires. A thoughtful, authentic gesture wins loyalty. Application. Offer genuine help before asking for a favor. In negotiations, concede something small first. It increases the chance of receiving a concession in return. Our minds cling to the first number, idea, or impression we encounter, the anchor. In negotiations, whoever sets the first number often controls the playing field. If you're selling, start high. That figure becomes the reference point. Even if the buyer negotiates down, they'll land closer to your anchor than they would have otherwise. Anchoring also applies beyond numbers. If you frame yourself as an expert, people will interpret your actions through that lens. If you frame an idea as urgent, urgency sticks. Application. Always try to set the first offer in negotiations. Frame yourself positively from the beginning. First impressions matter disproportionately. Humans crave consistency. Once we commit to something small, we're more likely to commit to bigger things to stay aligned with our self-image. This is the foot in the door technique. For example, if you ask a neighbor to sign a petition, small yes. Later they're more likely to donate money to the cause, big yes. The initial small act plants a seed of identity. In personal life, this means start small. Want your partner to try something new? Begin with a tiny request. Want your colleague to support a project? First, get them to agree to a small aspect. Application. Break big requests into small commitments. Reinforce people's self-image, since you're someone who values honesty. Humans are herd creatures. When uncertain, we look to others for cues. That's why testimonials, reviews, and bestseller labels work so well. In experiments, restaurants increased orders of certain dishes just by labeling them most popular. People assumed popularity meant quality. In daily life, mentioning that many people, or others like you, do something increases compliance. It reduces the fear of standing alone. Application. In persuasion, use examples of others who already agree. In leadership, highlight group behaviors you want repeated. The halo effect is the tendency to let one positive trait color our entire perception. Attractive people are often judged as smarter. Well-dressed people are seen as more competent. This bias can work for or against you. A strong first impression, smile, posture, attire, sets the tone for everything that follows. Once the halo is cast, people interpret future actions through that lens. Application. Focus on nailing the first impression in interviews, dates, and meetings. Use appearance, energy, and positivity to cast a favorable halo. When something is scarce, it feels more valuable. This is the psychology behind limited time offers and only 2 left in stock messages. Scarcity taps into primal survival instincts. In relationships, being slightly less available increases perceived value. Constant availability signals low worth. Scarcity makes presence more desirable. Application. Frame opportunities as limited. Create healthy boundaries in personal relationships. Availability should feel earned, not automatic. Our brains judge value in relative terms, not absolute ones. A $100 item feels expensive until you see it next to a $500 item. Suddenly, it feels cheap. In persuasion, present the bad option first, then the good one. The contrast makes the second option shine. This works in sales, negotiations, and even dating. Application. If selling, show the expensive option first, then the mid-range one. In arguments, contrast bad outcomes with your reasonable proposal. People are more easily persuaded by those they like. Liking grows from similarity, compliments, and cooperation. Compliments disarm defenses. Shared interests create connection. Cooperation builds trust. Even subtle similarities, like wearing the same colors, can trigger liking. Application. Find and highlight common ground quickly. Use genuine compliments to open doors. People defer to authority, whether real or perceived. Titles, uniforms, and confident speech amplify influence. The famous Milgram experiment showed people obey authority figures even against conscience. Projecting authority, through posture, tone, and credentials, makes people more receptive. But authority without warmth risks resistance. The sweet spot is authoritative yet approachable. Application. Establish credibility early in conversations. Combine authority with empathy for maximum influence. A commitment device is a trick to make future behavior consistent with present goals. For instance, telling friends about your fitness plan makes you likelier to stick with it. The public commitment creates accountability. In persuasion, getting someone to state their belief out loud increases the chance they'll act on it. Words cement identity. Application. Ask people to verbally agree before expecting action. Use public commitments to strengthen your own goals. Humans remember unfinished tasks better than finished ones. That's why cliffhangers work in TV shows. They leave your mind craving resolution. In persuasion, leaving something incomplete pulls people back. "I'll tell you the rest later," keeps attention hooked. Application. In presentations, build suspense before revealing the full answer. Use cliffhangers in storytelling to keep interest alive. Blank. Underscore. Blank. 15. The endowment effect. Ownership increases value. Once people feel ownership of something, they value it more. Give someone a mug, and they'll demand more money to give it back than they would pay to acquire it. In persuasion, let people try before they buy. Once they feel ownership, letting go feels like a loss. Application. Offer free trials or temporary ownership. In relationships, give roles and responsibilities that create ownership. People rise or fall to the expectations placed upon them. In education, when teachers believe students are high achievers, those students perform better, even if selected at random. In leadership, communicating belief in someone's ability inspires higher performance. Conversely, low expectations cripple potential. Application. Expect excellence from your team and voice that expectation. In self-talk, raise your expectations of yourself. Emotions spread like wildfire. A smiling, enthusiastic person lifts the room. A gloomy one drags it down. This is emotional contagion. People subconsciously mimic the moods around them. If you project confidence and positivity, others mirror it. Influence begins with the emotional tone you set. Application. Consciously project the emotion you want mirrored. Avoid absorbing negativity. Be the thermostat, not the thermometer. Facts tell. Stories sell. Stories bypass logic and tap into emotion. They make information memorable and persuasive. Great leaders, marketers, and negotiators all use stories. A personal story humanizes data. A vivid example transforms abstract concepts into reality. Application. Use stories to explain, persuade, and inspire. Craft narratives where your listener becomes the hero. You've now traveled through 18 psychological tricks that shape human behavior. From silence to storytelling, from reciprocity to emotional contagion. Each principle is a tool. But with great power comes responsibility. Influence should not be used to exploit or deceive. True mastery lies in using psychology to connect authentically, build trust, and lead positively. In the end, influence is not about control. It's about alignment. When you understand the hidden language of the mind, you can align your goals with others' needs. That's where persuasion transforms into collaboration. So, as you step away from these pages, remember this. Every conversation is an opportunity, not to dominate, but to connect. Every interaction is a chance, not to manipulate, but to inspire. The most powerful influence is not loud, flashy, or forceful. It is subtle, human, and real. Master these principles, and you'll not only understand people better, you'll understand yourself.